I noticed that like if I couldn't pee right then and there, my bladder would push up against the clitoral structure, and it would give you the same kind of feeling as just everyday run-of-the-mill arousal.
Whoa.
Wow, I did not know that. Welcome back to Other People's Lives. I'm Joe Santagato.
I'm Greg Dybec.
For anyone out there that would like to be a guest on our show, don't hesitate to reach out to us. Our email is oplpodcast@gmail.com.
And we are very excited for our conversation today. It is one of those things that we have never heard of before until this email came through. Usually I kind of put together, these intros to kind of describe it. But in this case, we've got our guests on the line, and I'm thinking I'm just going to throw this definition over to you. We are speaking with someone who has a fetish that's referred to as Omarashi. So do you mind just explaining to everyone what that is exactly?
Hi, yeah. Happy to be here. Omarashi is described as the sexual fetish in which someone gains pleasure from either holding their bladder or wetting oneself. Oftentimes in Western cultures, it's often referred to as wetting. So holding your bladder until you can no longer hold it can release like a pleasurable feeling that a lot of people quite enjoy.
So is it just the bladder, or is it also the bowels?
Omarashi mostly refers to the bladder, but in a lot of forms, people that are usually into Omarashi also tend to relieve themselves through their bowels as well. Not everyone. There is a large section of people who believe it's only the bladder.
Okay. So how do you kind of begin to realize that you have this? Do you remember kind of what age and what the initial feelings were where you realized that this was more of like a sexual arousal and maybe a fetish?
Yeah. So I had quite a few bladder infections as a child. And with bladder infections, you tend to get either the inability to pee on command or the inability to hold your bladder. And a lot of the time, if you have a very full bladder and you're female bodied, which I am, your bladder actually pushes up against the clitoral structure on the inside of your pelvis, which is where your G-spot is. So from a very young age, probably like 9, 10, I noticed that like if I couldn't pee right then and there, my bladder would push up against the clitoral structure, and it would give you the same kind of feeling as just everyday run-of-the-mill arousal.
Whoa.
Wow, I did not know that.
Yeah.
I was going to ask too, because I feel like everyone can kind of appreciate that feeling of like you, for whatever circumstances, have to hold your bladder and you can't go to the bathroom, and then finally being able to, pee, you're just like, oh my God, like it just feels so like, and you get like chills throughout your body. Like, I feel like everyone's like had that experience before. So I was going to ask like what the difference is, it's, I guess, is it just because this is something that you go out of your way to experience, or is there something that you feel that is completely different than what all of us else are like kind of feeling that don't necessarily have this sort of fetish?
I do think that I might be slightly outside of the realm of like what everyone else feels. I do think that like I have more of a appreciation for like water sports, but not to the point of like wanting to have someone pee on me or pee on someone else. but I can have the appreciation that it definitely is more arousing to release a full bladder than some sex acts.
I mean, yeah, I feel like a lot of people can relate to that. Like there is something like innately sexual about shitting and pissing. Just like in general, I feel like, especially when you really have to go, like that release is like, that's exactly what it is. That's a release, which is extremely pleasurable. So like Joe said, I guess a lot of people can definitely appreciate that. I guess are there any other aspects for you of like, I guess maybe just if you're able to kind of describe like what that feeling is, and like, is there anything else around that feeling? Because the idea of wetting, something you said in the beginning, is also like actually not making it to the bathroom in time and like maybe peeing your pants. So like what's that aspect of this, and why is that a turn on?
I think the actual like wetting portion of it has a lot to do with the embarrassment factor. So like feeling like you have absolutely no control over the situation, and losing control of your bladder. And then, especially if it's in a public setting or around other people, the embarrassment of, oh my God, I couldn't hold my bladder, is oddly exhilarating. It kind of plays into like voyeurism, where you are kind of wanting to be caught doing something that maybe you shouldn't be doing in public.
Mm-hmm. Got it. So, I mean, is that something that you typically do often? Like you're out in public and you will purposefully wet your pants?
I haven't delved into it too much outside of my home. I'm more scared of the repercussions of the I guess judgment of the people that I in the town that I live in, because it is quite a small town. But I have often thought about it. Like I'll be on the bus or something and I'll have to pee a little bit, and I'm like, if I just peed right here, who would actually notice?
Right. And then if you were to do that, and then you're kind of, then I guess on top of it, it's like, well, now I'm sitting in my own pee and no one knows. And that's another turn on top of having had my bladder full and like having that release. So it just kind of like compounds into this like fantasy sort of.
Yeah. It's definitely a very strange thing that people will often turn their nose up at. But them themselves have oftentimes actually experienced pretty much the exact same feeling. Yeah.
No, it is weird that way, because there is that portion of this that like we can understand what's pleasurable about that feeling. But I guess in your case, is it, so it's something you're interested in trying, kind of wetting yourself in public, but you haven't been able to bring yourself to do it. Small town, like you said. Do you feel like you're on your way to trying that, or is there a way to try that? Like, would you ever wear a diaper out so that maybe you would feel safe from like people actually noticing if your pants became wet?
Yeah, so I have worn diapers out in public. I have not wet myself with a diaper on, out in public, that is. But it is something that like I would really, really like to do. Most of it is I want to travel outside of my small town and do it somewhere where no one knows who I am. Mostly because it's still the fear of the repercussions of the people in my personal life, that personal and professional life, that would judge me really hardly.
Right. And you said that you do wedding in the comfort of your own home. Is that something you do pretty frequently? And what type of pants or shorts are you wearing when you decide to do that?
So usually it's just like in my shower for the sake of like cleaning up mess. I also live with a roommate who doesn't know about it, so I would prefer to keep it that way. And so it's usually like whatever I'm wearing. So like I've done it in jeans, like basketball shorts, track pants, pretty much anything. It's like if he's not home or I'm about to take a shower, it's happening.
Wow.
Is it like similar to, I'm trying to equate it to like an orgasm. Like, is it similar to that feeling, or is it just sort of like a different type of really good feeling for you? Or would you say that you would describe it as an orgasm?
It's akin to the feeling of an orgasm.
Right.
It often results in me having an orgasm. So it's the like the warmth that threads when you have wet yourself, that quickly goes very cold, is a very strange yet like comforting feeling almost. Like it almost brings you back to childhood a little bit. But that feeling that you get, it's almost, it is very much akin to an orgasm.
And that is sometimes enough to allow you to orgasm, or is there like masturbation or something that follows because this sort of puts you in the mood, or is it just that act alone that can bring you to that point?
Usually masturbation is involved as well.
Wow. Is there like a favorite thing to wear when you do this? Like just the way that you're describing this, of kind of that feeling and the warmth and the cold. Now I imagine textures would kind of play a role, or like tightness of pants. I don't know if I'm overthinking that, but is that something that you take into consideration?
Yes. So like dry wicking fabrics like sportswear and such is not something that I thoroughly enjoy doing it in. I prefer like fuzzy sweatpants or thick denim pants, mostly because they hold the liquid better. So you get that cold sensation for a little bit longer.
Oh, interesting. Go ahead, Joe. Sorry.
No, I was gonna kind of ask, before you said you haven't really, dove into, as far as like the bowels go. But is that something that you would eventually get into, like down the line?
I do think that like eventually there may be a time where I may actually lose control of my bowels, like genuinely. And I think at that point in time, I would probably feel a little bit more comfortable to continue doing it afterwards. But there is that little voice in the back of my head that kind of screams at me that what I'm doing is strange. So I can't get to the part of like actually going.
I think that's interesting because on this show, especially when it comes to fetishes, I think that we've spoken to a lot of people who have sort of hit a point in their own like acceptance or experience where they are almost fully kind of living out, their fantasies, their fetishes. They maybe even have a partner who accepts it. I feel like that happens more often than not. But it is just like real and interesting to hear from your point of view that this is a sexual fetish that you have. This is something that you're interested in, but you are still sort of really doing this behind closed doors that no one really knows, that you have this desire to sort of take it to the next level or do it in public, but you are worried about the repercussions or the people in your town that know you. I just think it's interesting to point that out, just because I think a lot of people listening could probably relate to that too, where maybe they're not at the comfort level of some of the guests we talk to who are like, oh yeah, I'm slinging poo all over myself everywhere I go, and whatever it is. But you are just kind of in the process, I guess, of exploring this and seeing where you want to take it. So I just think that's interesting.
Yeah, I definitely, it's kind of strange because my entire philosophy in life is that sexual health education is a basic human right. Yet I decide to close every door and every window when it comes to my own sexuality and sexual proclivities. Yeah, it is kind of a dichotomy. It's very strange.
Yeah, and also I thought it was interesting that you said you were worried about, the embarrassment or people knowing and in person. But I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that at some point you had mentioned that was also part of the reason why it was like an attractive thought to you would be because you're not supposed to be doing this, and then the sort of embarrassment feel. But I can see how that would be different when it's like people and you have to see every day. But it is interesting, that sort of dynamic being like, yeah, I'd be too embarrassed to do this, but also the embarrassment is part of the reason why you like it, right?
Yeah, there's definitely there's definitely the embarrassment factor that really ties into what is very attractive about this. But it's very much the I don't know the random people, the strangers that may be judging me, and I have no idea what's going through their head. But then the people in my personal and my professional life, I know the way that they talk. I know that the way that they think. So that if like I were to have done this in front of them and they were to judge me, it's almost like I can hear their voice in my head.
Mm-hmm. So for the most part, that the people in your life would not at all be supportive of this, or would have some pretty strong judgments if they ever found this out about you.
Yeah, for the most part, I do think that I think a lot of people would turn their nose up at it and kind of judge me very harshly for it. There are a few select people where they'd probably be just like, I don't care. Like, whatever you do in the bedroom is whatever you do in the bedroom. But for the vast majority of it, I do think that my friends would judge me.
Mm-hmm, so there's absolutely no one who, besides yourself, who knows about this.
No. None of my past relationships know. None of my friends or family know. None of my coworkers, acquaintances, nothing.
And you've been doing this sort of consistently for how long?
Probably since 2016 or 2017.
Wow. Okay. So that's a long time to kind of carry this sort of secret,
Yeah.
I mean, you seem pretty open to the fact of it progressing into, wherever it goes. Do you ever see maybe, you kind of telling one of your friends about it, or, it being one day something that you can talk about?
Yeah, I do. As I said, I haven't told any previous partners, but going forward in relationships, I do think that I'm going to be more open with the fact on that, because it is kind of a deal breaker for a lot of people, right? It is a kind of out there kink. It's not something that's super common or spoken about. It's probably more common than I think it is, but it's definitely not spoken about as much. And I don't need anybody to take part in the kink with me. I'm fully content doing it myself. But I do think that any long-term partner going forward is going to have to know.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, definitely. And so it seems like you haven't necessarily found then sort of a community around this. But is it something is there porn related to this? Is this something that is there a community where you're kind of consuming, I don't know, other videos or anything about this?
Oh yeah, there is a massive community online.
Okay.
I don't know if you've ever heard of the reputation of Tumblr, but Tumblr in specific, before it decided to go nothing over the age of 18, no NSFW stuff, was entirely porn. The entire website was mainly porn.
I feel like I remember that phase.
Yeah. And that was where I kind of discovered what this was. I think I stumbled across a blog about I think it was diapers, like years ago. I was probably in my teens, like honestly, probably younger than high school age. And I like stumbled across the blog and kind of fell headfirst into this hole of subculture kinks, that kind of led me to, the deep dark sides of the web that I probably shouldn't have been on, but was on anyways. And I've definitely found out a lot of kinks that a lot of people have no idea about.
Yeah, there's probably still so many out there that, I mean, even this, like I feel like maybe I've heard of wedding before when you use that term, but I don't know. I mean, this felt like pretty new to us too when it came across in the email.
Yeah, Omarashi is definitely like a Japanese term. In Western cultures, it is often referred to as wedding. For fecal matter, it is messing. Usually. I
like the simplicity of the terms. It's like,
yeah,
I just picture like a council of wedders and messers, just like, what should we call this? And it's just like, just keep it simple.
Yeah.
You also, sorry, I was going to say, you also said that other people having accidents turns you on.
Yes.
So where does that play a role? And would your ultimate goal be to have a partner that is like willing to do that for you?
Kind of, yes. I'm polyamorous, so I don't believe in monogamy. I don't think that one person should be required to only date one person for the rest of their life. So there is the chance of me having several partners, and I do want one to be a partner who is okay with doing this with me. It's the embarrassment factor of like, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed for them. That like, it gets the engine going. It's not quite as exhilarating as like wedding myself.
Mm.
Is just the general idea of embarrassment also attractive to you? Like if it wasn't necessarily about someone wetting their pants, but it was, I don't know, something else where that would be embarrassing for someone. Does the general idea also kind of rub you the right way?
Yeah, I am also like fully into like degradation, whether I am degrading someone else or someone is degrading me. But like calling me like your dirty, filthy slut or something like that, like is definitely like part of the preferred sexual routine.
Yeah. Interesting. So it's almost like your ultimate fantasy is to just like, go and like in public, pee yourself, have people see you do that, and then like say bad things about you.
Yeah, kind of.
It's very interesting. I'm curious too, because you just kind of mentioned the dichotomy before of kind of what I just joked about, like having these urges, but not necessarily being able to do it, like wanting the embarrassment, but kind of having the fear of embarrassment. You also mentioned prior to the call that you were assigned female at birth, trans masculine person. So within like kind of your community and the people day to day, is that something that you feel like you've been supported, or has there been judgment?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for the most part, I've been out since I was in high school. So I'm 25 now. So I definitely gained the support that I've wanted. Some of my family members have taken a little bit of time to come around to that fact. But I kind of just push it down everyone's throat, no matter where I am. It's either accept me or move along kind of thing is my attitude towards things, at least when it comes to my gender.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was going to ask because it's like, not that a fetish like this is necessarily even close to being the same thing of like, people accepting you or something that you would like push down people's throats. But that's what I was wondering, if like that experience in your life and kind of taking that ownership almost gave you confidence when it comes to like maybe taking this fetish to the next level or telling people about it?
Yeah, I definitely think that like going forward in time, there will be a time where like I will be of the same kind of like attitude as like either get with it or go away kind of attitude towards things. I'm not quite at that point. I only really accepted that this was like an actual part of my like human experience in like the last 8 to 12 months.
Oh, okay.
So like I've been doing it for years and completely being like, no, I'll just quit it one day.
I see. So now,
recently you decided like this is going to be a part of my life forever, no matter what.
Yeah, kind of. It's like until I no longer find it attractive, like it's going to be a part of me. And if that's the way my life ends up, that's the way my life ends up.
Right. Yeah. No, it's it really is interesting. It's eye-opening. Like I said before, I think it's cool and also helpful to speak to at this stage. Like I said, we speak to a lot of people who are probably well past that first kind of 8 to 12 months. So like for you to kind of reach out and share this, you know, with us, but also all the strangers listening when you haven't really shared it with anyone and are kind of just starting to like truly accept this as part of your human experience, like you said now, we thank you for that, because it is, you know, very early stage essentially. And it is cool to kind of get the perspective and insight from someone, you know, in the phase that you're in with this fetish.
Yeah, I will be completely honest with you. I emailed you guys while I was completely drunk. I didn't even remember it happening until I had gotten the email back, and I was like, "Oh shit!"
A liquid courage. You were like, "All right,
very
we're
much
doing
so.
this." Yeah.
Hey, but you followed through and you're here now, so that's awesome.
Exactly.
And yeah, and this is an interesting one, and we're, you know, happy to have learned about it, and we get it to an extent. I don't know if we'll be like peeing our pants anytime soon, but we were joking yesterday because we were together and we knew this call was coming up today. And we just started like, it made us like start sharing all these like secrets almost about how often we like try to push it to the limit and live on the edge of like holding our like pee in. And like, especially, I think you were saying, Joe, like if you know you're going to make it, like if you're at home and you know the bathroom's there, it's like a game you almost play with yourself. Like, I'm just going to like let this build up a little bit more because it's just going to feel that much better when it happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. As I said, like, yeah, and OPL. So like the amount of pee stories that Joe and Frank have on the basement yard is kind of hilarious.
Yeah, there's a couple. Yeah, Frankie's over here. He's doing it every single day. I mean, he has to hold pee because he has long drives in the morning. So he probably knows exactly what you're talking about. But yeah, I mean, it's always cool to do episodes like this where you learn about a brand new experience that you didn't realize that other people kind of indulge in. So we appreciate you coming on and sort of educating us on your experience and also, you know, unveiling this part of the human experience, I guess.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Of course.
Thanks
Thank you
so
for
much.
taking the time.
Okay, you guys have a good day.
See you.
Bye. Now, a word from our sponsor, BetterHelp. You may find yourself feeling overwhelmed by the general stress that comes with life's challenges or work piling up. This happens to me a lot, and the stress and anxiety can really cloud my thoughts and take me out of problem-solving mode, where I feel like I have a harder time coming up with solutions to the problems I'm faced with, and this can really begin to spiral and affect my work and relationships. And luckily, this has been something I've been able to work on with my therapist. I feel like I've gained a lot of tools to keep my composure in moments of stress or where I feel like things might not be going the way that I want. And talking with a therapist can really help you become a better problem solver, making it easier to accomplish your goals, no matter how big or small. And I feel like I've been able to face my moments of stress much better and have been able to overthink less and move forward with daily challenges. And if you're thinking about giving therapy a try, BetterHelp is a great option. It's convenient, accessible, affordable, and it's entirely online. And you can get matched with a therapist after filling out a brief survey, and you can even switch therapists at any time if you want to work with someone new. And when you want to be a better problem solver, therapy can get you there. Visit betterhelp.com/OPL today and get 10% off your first month. That's betterhelp.com/OPL. betterhelp.com/OPL and get that 10% off your first month if you've been wanting to give therapy a try.
Well, I get it.
I mean, I don't know if you get it.
Well, I don't get it. Like, I mean, I definitely like, I get like why that feels good.
Yes.
To piss when you like have to piss so bad and you're like, okay, now I'm going to go, I'm peeing now. This is amazing. I made it. You know?
I can understand the fine line between like just a normal release of pee or bowel movements to like orgasmic. It's the closest thing compared to, you know, some of the other things, with all due respect to all the other fetishes we've discussed on here. But, you know, smearing poop on myself I'm not going to understand how that translates exactly.
That's heavy.
But this is feelings in the general same region of things that feel good. So it does make sense in that way. And it's interesting, like the layer that's added to that of like the secrecy or the embarrassment or of like possibly getting caught. And it just makes me wonder how many people I've ever been around that are just peeing next to me in public and just like getting off by the fact that I don't know, or that no one else knows they're doing it, but maybe they're doing it.
I mean, I don't know how many people are actually indulging in this type of thing. I think that you're okay, but yeah, I'm with you there that you can understand it because we all kind of have those experiences. I really do think that peeing and pooping is like a full body experience, because when you're going to like you can feel it in your whole body. Like when I'm peeing, like sometimes I get chills and I'm like,
you
whoa.
shudder? Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, like a pee shudder is whoa.
Yeah, your
nice.
Spine's tingling, especially if you wake up in the morning and like you haven't peed at night and it's like that first one in the morning.
It's the same thing with pooping. When you get a really good poop and you're like, oh my God, I needed that so bad. Like a release. It's so great. You can feel it in your whole body. So I can see how this can turn into like a sort of sexual thing. I mean, once we start pulling the poop out of the toilet, that's where you lose me. But you know, that's it. That's it there. But yeah, super interesting episode. Definitely something I'd never heard about. What was the Japanese word for it again?
Omarashi.
Omarashi, yeah.
Which sounds quite elegant.
It sounds delicious, honestly.
It does sound a little delicious.
This is similar to omakase.
So if you want to get sushi after this, I'm with you.
But yeah, for anyone out there who wants to be a guest on our show, like I said in the beginning of the episode, hit us up. Our email is oplpodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah, follow us on TikTok, on Instagram @OPL Podcast for a bunch of clips and things. And head over to patreon.com/OPL show if you want to join that. It's $5 monthly. And you'll see we'll be using kind of the collected money to make different donations to charities and things like that. So help support the show, help support charities. It's awesome. Shout out to all the patrons. And that is all.
Yep, that is all. See you guys next time.